We're going to talk about careers in marketing and biggest new opportunities that women need to be aware of. On this panel, we have a great speaker lineup. Let me introduce each one. So today we have with us Babita Baruah, Managing Partner, GTB
Hi.
India. Hi, Babita.
Hi.
Yeah, Babita is in her 24th year in the industry, and with WPP, she now leads GTB India as Managing Partner. After starting her career with HTA in Kolkata in 1996, she took on roles in the agency's Mumbai and Delhi offices, as well as working with the Wunderman Thompson Unilever team in Bangkok on Sunsilk and Lux. Her portfolio and experience extends across categories in FMCG, finance, technology. She's very passionate about the intersection of consumer behavior, culture, and technology, leading to creative solutions that shift the needle for the brand and business. She believes in the power of influence of the communication industry towards a purposive future. In 2004, she was one of the 12 million women to be selected for the prestigious British Chevening Scholarship in the UK on women and leadership. In 2016, she was invited to Harvard Business School as a speaker on trends in India marketing in the India conference. She is driven by diversity, mentoring young professionals, engagement with management institutes, initiatives for making the workplace culture conducive to inspire talent, and strong partnerships. Along with her team, she has initiated programs like She Are and She Time to connect and empower women at work in the workplace. We welcome you on the panel, Babita.
Thank you. That's very generous as an introduction. Thank you.
Next, we have Ruchita. Ruchita Aggarwal is India Head New Business Sales at Google India Private Limited, where she, along with her team of senior business development managers, is responsible for introducing Google digital marketing solutions to corporates for them to achieve desired business and growth objectives. Before joining Google, Ruchita was heading business development and strategy at Clicks Capital Services Private Limited, where she was responsible for conceptualizing and executing strategic ideas that focus on accentuating growth at the group. Prior to joining Clicks, she was the Chief Operating Officer at Paytm Payments Bank. In addition to her role as Head of Banking Operations, she also led corporate and government alliances at 197 Communications. Prior to joining Paytm, she spent 14 years at Citibank India and Singapore. She is a postgraduate in Business Administration from SPJ Institute of Management, Mumbai, and holds a Bachelor in Economics with honors from Sri Ram College of Commerce, Delhi. Ruchita is passionate about diversity and was a founding member of Cities India Diversity Council. She's a regular mentor at forums like DigiPivot, Rebalance, Lean In, Back to the Front, Jobs for Her, and Women's Web. She's also involved with charitable and developmental initiatives in fields of underprivileged children, old age, and women. Welcome, Ruchita. Nice to have you on the panel.
Thank you, Ruchi. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm a little intimidated by my panelist, I have to say, because, I'm not born as a marketeer. So I'm looking forward to this discussion as well.
Right. Next, we have Nisha. Nisha Sampath, founder, Bright Angles Consulting. Nisha's life journey has been defined by two passions: love for the written and spoken word, and love for technology and gadgets. Starting her career in 1997 as a qualitative researcher at TNS and AC Nielsen, Nisha worked on some pioneering studies to understand internet usage and technology adoption in India, including some of the first focus group discussions conducted on the web in the country in 1999. Her stints as a strategic planner working on HUL brands in Lowe and JWT gave her wings to launch a career as an independent brand consultant in 2010. Nisha creates brand strategy, customer experience, and product ideas at the cutting-edge intersection of consumer culture, technology, and branding. She has worked with HUL, Book My Show, Swiggy, and GVK, among other clients, to deliver brand building, consumer insight, and UI UX solutions. She is currently working on her dream project, Paisafal, an NGO that will create a technology platform for India's urban poor to get equal access and benefit of formal financial products like saving accounts, PPF, bank loans, etc. Nisha is an English literature graduate from Ferguson College, Pune, and an alumnus of MICA, batch of 97. Welcome, Nisha.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And I also have to say this is the first online panel that I'm doing. So I'm really looking forward to this new experience.
Great. So are we. And moderating the panel discussion and leading the panel is Anju Jayaram, our co-founder and CMO at Women's Web. Anju is passionate about brands and has been at the helm of product launches, brand buildings, and events. With a successful career in the pharmaceutical industry behind her and a deep interest in women's issues, Anju brings strong project management and execution skills to every project. At Women's Web, Anju drives business growth strategy, new client acquisition, key account management, and has delivered highly successful brand campaigns to an engaged audience. She is also an avid traveler and engages with her audience from her Instagram handle @travellingnoodles. Welcome, Anju.
Thanks, Ruchi.
Yeah, and
Hi,
over to you.
everyone. Yes. So the session today is on careers in marketing, biggest new opportunities that women need to be aware of. So, I mean, as you know, the landscape of work has changed quite a bit in the last 6 months, work as well as personal, I would say. But yeah, that gives both a lot of opportunities as well as some restrictions. So my first question to the panelists is what areas or sectors within the marketing function do you see that are going to be booming in the near future? And are there any skills that we can learn now so that we are ready?
Sure.
Sure. So, Anju, it's a great question. And the biggest question that I hear clients asking across different sectors is what will the future of my business be? And how is the consumer behavior going to be? How is it going to change in the time ahead? Marketing has always been about planning for the future and understanding the consumer, what we call the voice of the consumer, has always given us a foundation to make that future plan. But today we are in this exciting, truly unpredictable spot, right? Where even scientists, econometrists, people who construct models of the future, they don't have answers. It's truly that VUCA world in every sense of the term, which is volatile, ambiguous, complex. And consumers, when they talk to us today, so as a researcher and a consultant, I talk to consumers about what they will feel in the future. But when they speak to us, they're telling us how they feel now. We don't know if this will be true 6 or 12 months down the line because just like us, consumers are also living in uncertainty. So, in this context, I feel one of the biggest skills will actually be our personal and professional adaptability to the uncertainty. And it will be the flexibility that we build into our planning. At a professional level, there is this tool called scenario planning, which I see becoming extremely important as a skill to marketers. And it basically involves constructing alternate realities of what the future could look like. And given the times that we are in, constantly letting them evolve through our daily experience. Being open to all sources of information, wherever it comes from, whether it's big data, whether it's focus groups, whether it's cultural insight, newer and newer ways to assimilate information, being ready to abandon our favorite scenarios and construct new ones. I think we'll be using very different parts of our brains in the situation that we are today. And as such, that's an opportunity for a lot of personal growth and learning. You need imagination and rigor. You need extreme flexibility while you're keeping a long term goal in view. You need urgency and you also need patience. And as Raina Maria Rilke said, you have to live with the questions until you live your way to the answers because answers will not be immediate and answers will keep changing. So that's my thought about it.
Babita?
Yeah, thank you, Nisha. That was really, I mean, especially on scenario planning, I cannot agree more because, while it's used for marketing, but I feel you can also use it for your personal journey, your personal career, because it's all about scenarios. I'll just build on to what Nisha says from another angle. And this is, I must say, the global pandemic would have accentuated this, but it's not related only to the pandemic. The way in which the future jobs are moving actually are calling for a very different set of values. And to me, the values that we bring to the table increasingly are becoming far more important than skilling ourselves for a particular role or a job because technology is developing and changing at such a fast pace that honestly we don't have a 3 year 5 year 2 year term to reskill do that. That's becoming very, very short. What do I mean by that? A lot of values that we thought were very feminine values, for instance, which is say empathy, which is consistency, which is stability, and some which are gender neutral values, which are authenticity, reliability, the honesty and the transparency that you bring to the table, the ability to share, the ability to collaborate. These are the new value sets that really distinguish one person and the other in a world where honestly there's a democratization of technology and tools beyond the point, and to me, as women, therefore the playing field has become far more level than it was before. We come inherently with a lot of values that define the future, and maybe going on into this conversation, I'll talk a little more about it. But that's really where I feel where the future is going. Anisha's covered a lot from the other perspective, so I'm not repeating that.
That's great, Babita. Thank you so much for that. Ruchita?
Yeah, and yeah, I think I'm going to just add another third element to what Nisha and Babita very nicely shared. I think when I think about it from a marketeer's role, right? If you look at a marketeer's role today versus let's say what it might have been a few years ago, right? The complexity of the role has become very, very different, and it's here to stay, and it will continue. And that complexity is coming from three levers, if I can broadly define it, right? Of course, the VUCA world, and what Nisha spoke about, and the need for values going forward and planning for the future. But I think there are two other elements that have made the job of a marketer a lot more complex, and therefore it needs sophisticated skills to also be added, and keep learning along the way. One is the fact that there are so many mediums that a marketer now has to not only be comfortable with, but has to be able to navigate and optimize for results, right? So earlier it was maybe just TV, print, maybe OTT. Now you throw in social, you throw in digital, you throw in short format videos, you throw in like so many other formats that are coming in, right? And as a marketer, you have to be able to not only understand all of these various mediums and what they can do for you, but also importantly leverage the interplay between these mediums, because a consumer is touching all of these.
Right.
So I think that's what adds to the complexity. I think the other complexity for marketeers, if I had to speak from a very specific India perspective, is, if you look at our consumers and our population, right, you have 50% which are millennials, they are digitally natives, right? But then you have the other 50%, which is, your Gen X, Gen Y, and, like the baby movers, etc., right? So how do you identify what your target segment is? And how do you customize your messaging to each of these segments so that each consumer can still relate to your messaging? And, therefore, how do you kind of really build a full funnel marketing strategy that can really leverage all the channels that are available to you, that can leverage content, that can leverage creative, that can leverage so many other things. And then the third complexity that gets added, I think, is also because in the current economic environment, right, it is continuously something that most companies, CFOs and CEOs want to optimize for economic returns, right? So earlier, if it was okay for a marketer to kind of solve for future business, get demand, get consumers, manage the customer experience, marketers now have to also be able to talk to a CFO and communicate to them in language that a CFO understands, that what's my ROI, right? And that's the other third or the fourth element that adds to the complexity. So frankly, if you ask me, that from a marketing job and careers perspective, I think it's become very important for a marketeers to now, even more than what it was before, where the business had, where the CEOs had, where you can talk to a CFO, where you can talk to sales, where you can talk to your consumers, you can talk to all your stakeholders. And I see that, the roles that will come in the future is, something that all of us as marketeers and the other women on this call will have to really prepare themselves to be able to talk not just the marketeer's language, but talk, also be able to talk to a CFO, talk to a CEO, and, be able to also engage with the customer through the entire full funnel. So I guess the demands and the ask, for a marketeer have kind of only gone up, and it will continue to go up. But of course, there are enough tools, that are available now. Again, to the point that Nisha and Babita mentioned, that, our ability to do consumer research, our ability to, look at tools which are democratized. So I think we have enough available. We just have to be conscious that we have to get ourselves comfortable with that.
So does that mean more type of roles in marketing, more diverse roles in marketing?
Yes. I think more diversity of roles, which is a good thing, right? Because, you will be able to build a specialization in your core areas of strength, and, the options will also increase.
Yeah, I mean, it's diverse roles and newer roles also, to this, because there's so many roles now which we didn't hear about before. Like one of the ones which we were talking about internally yesterday, and maybe next year we'll even consider something around it. Are data scientists. Now we never thought of data scientists before, right? We would work with partners, but increasingly those are new roles where it's not a physical co-location, mobility. You can work out of anywhere. You're just understanding what the numbers mean in terms of a human, a person, and behavior. So just adding to the point of.
So my next question is for Ruchita. So the question is this: given India's evolving online demographics as well as the significant rate of digital adoption, what changes in consumer behavior should marketers be prepared for? How will our roles change?
Yeah.
So
So I'll,
considering that Paytm has been at the forefront,
yeah.
In your ex company as well as today.
Yeah. Yeah, so actually, I'll tell you what's been very interesting for India is, the adoption of internet, right? And the way the mobile phones have kind of really, become so widespread, and, affordability of data. These are the three key levers that have really made India and the consumer landscape evolve rapidly in the last 5 to 6 years. Obviously it started many years ago, but the way we're looking at it today is that we're expecting that, let's say, in the next 2 to 3 years we will have almost 75 crore, which is more than 50% of our population, which will be on the internet, right? We are going to have almost 65 crore smartphones. And majority of this growth, by the way, interestingly, when we look at the trends and data insights on Google and everything, most of this growth, by the way, is coming from Bharat. It's not necessarily coming from India. And, that's really where Bharat is coming online, and it's becoming, digital is becoming mainstream. The other three trends, that we've been seeing is the emergence of the PVs, as, as is popularly called, right? It's the voice, the vernacular, and the video, right? So if you look at the millennials that I was talking about, right, the demographics that India has, which is more than 50% are millennials, 75% of them are on videos. They consume video.
Right.
So, the video is just so much more vernacular. 95% of the video consumption, for example, that we see on YouTube is in vernacular content. We've seen a 10x growth in the Hindi search queries. Anju, you were talking about that you have a segment on, in Hindi language, and then, you have a platform that, you also, using Hindi. And that's definitely a trend that we're also seeing, right? So, and again, in all of this, right, majority of the consumption of content is happening on the mobile phone. It's on the small screen. Now, what does that mean for a marketeer, right? You have to solve for, or you have to leverage vernacular. You have to plan for and connect to your, Bharat audience, which is now available, which, let's say, earlier, if you had to go about buying media in a fragmented manner, you had to go, buy regional TV media, buy regional print media. Now you could actually target these, geographies with the, social, digital, short format, video formats, etc., that are there, right? So you're able to actually sit in one place and be able to plan your media buying accordingly. And, that's something that is very empowering for a marketer. In fact, like today, for example, in some of the segments that we work with, whether it's edtech or gaming or these others, we're actually seeing customers or marketeers being able to so effectively solve for global markets as well. Which earlier, let's say, as a marketer, you had to always partner with somebody there, had to onboard an agency in that market, understand the consumer there, and build a campaign with them. You could actually now, connect with them, use your media here, and, be able to do that. So I think the consumer is now available and is becoming more and more available. What the consumer is also doing is leaving a lot of footprint. So you're not left to be guessing what the consumer wants. You can actually map out what the consumer is consuming.
Right.
It's searching for, is consuming in terms of even OTT content, or consuming, blogs, or consuming other social media platforms, right? What is the content that they're consuming? And that is leaving, or demographics, or, what kind of phone are they using? There's just so many more vectors that are now available as tools for marketeers to understand their customer better. And that, again, is something that is lending itself to much more effective targeting. You can really be optimizing for your marketing dollars, marketing spends. And the other advantage, which I think Nisha had spoken about, right? Because it's just such a dynamic world. And, she spoke about how marketers have to keep moving with the times. I think one of the other things that we are seeing is that, you as a marketer, you're also able to do a lot of A/B testing now, which earlier, let's say, took a lot more planning. and a lot more, time to take it to market, gather the results, and then figure out what your next step should be. You're able to, plan these small experiments, do a lot of A/B testing, and then when you hit the market, you're able to actually hit it with what hopefully is going to resonate much better with your consumer. So I think those are the ways, consumers are now, you're able to capture their needs. And if I had to just summarize, as to what the consumer is looking for, I think we define it as, consumers are curious, they are demanding, and they're impatient. And I think as a marketeer, if you can try to solve for these three things, consumers are trying to research before they're buying and before they make any decisions. So can you be there in that journey when, you can make your product or your offering as part of their consideration set? So play to their curiosity, play to that, to your advantage. The other is that they're very demanding. They want the best value. They will compare, so can you get reviews? Can you get, a lot of other customers to really talk about you? So can you again, curate that for your consumers? The third is, they're impatient. If your web page or your mobile site is not loading in 3 seconds, they abandon the journey. So at least those are some of the trends and, things that are here to stay. And, COVID has only kind of enhanced that, if I can call it that, because people are spending that much more time online. Like one of the studies that we were noticing recently, before COVID, people were spending about close to 3 hours 22 minutes on their mobile phone. Now they're spending, it peaked to about almost 4 hours, and right now in July it's trending at about 3 hours 37 minutes on the phone, right? And that is a lot of time that the consumer is spending, right? And it's not that the consumers have enough time on their hand that they can spend 3.5 hours on TV, 3.5 hours on their mobile. So they're potentially consuming the two contents together simultaneously. So how do you catch their attention? When they're consuming content on TV, OTT, phone, etc. So how do you catch that attention? So that's also something that marketers have to really solve for. So yeah, so I think that's but I think a lot is now available at the hands of marketeer, and there is a lot that can be done.
So, Babita, this is a tack on to the earlier point you made. What are the different channels that we are seeing opening up, or what are the channels that marketers are preferring these days? I mean, based on where their audience is, of course. And does that mean, I'm sorry, I think the light went off, but the connection is still on.
Yes.
Yeah. So, does that mean new opportunities?
Yeah. So, very, very interesting channels and very different channels. In fact, I myself don't really like the term traditional media because honestly, nothing is traditional. They all coexist. But I'm just using that term so that all of us know the difference. So there's TV, print, outdoor, radio, as we knew it as media. And by we, it also means, say, as maybe 5 years back also, maybe 3 years back also, that was the primary media. For a lot of brands, that would still be maybe the primary media, just in terms of money or dollar terms from a budget point of view, because you want to reach out to a lot of people, and these media, they give you that reach and the scale. However, today, the kind of screen time, the kind of connectivity, the kind of consumption that we do when it's digital, whether it is knowledge seeking, whether it is sharing about ourselves, whether it is seeking entertainment, whether it is just about staying connected in communities, I think the behavior shift from just the offline world into a very, very good balance, and sometimes even skewed more to the online world, has resulted in marketers looking at a lot of new channels. For instance, gaming is one where we thought that there is marketing and there is gaming, right? And there are two different things. But today, gaming is emerging as one of the very interesting and engaging ways of communicating and connecting to your consumer through a game, and you call it gamification. It could be as simple as a quiz to as complex as even inventing a game around your brand. The other is a lot of content is a very loose term, but really, and I'm picking off from Ruchita's point on a lot of video and video related channels, whether it is about just audio video together, or whether it is about just visuals, for instance, like the Instas of the world. So, where is it taking us in terms of careers and job opportunities for everyone in general and women in particular? Uh, it is really opening up the world, both in terms of um, the you're not straitjacketed into the earlier, doctor, engineer, art student, humanities. If I have to get into data, I have to really be a very, very data savvy person. Like I can even see a question which says, do we really need to be an expert and a product domain specialist? My answer is yes. Of course, in some cases, you will need to if you go into that. But for a lot of others, it is really about understanding at the key thing underlying all of this is consumer behavior. And I always feel if you understand consumer behavior, everything around you is a channel. Tomorrow, your car can be a channel. It's already happening that with shared cars. I mean, thanks to the pandemic, we are not getting into shared cars so much. Every environment around you can be a channel. We've seen examples of the morning toast coming up with a brand logo. That can be a channel. So I think that's where I come to again the values that I spoke about, which is if we come with this whole innovative mindset that we will think new, we will keep an eye and a feel of the pulse of the consumer and where he or she is going and instantly come up with ideas, solutions, and technology help us with those solutions because you can scale it up, right? I mean, just look at this. None of us traveled, but we are all together in this technology enabled conference. That's a great example of just getting a community of brand lovers. If Women's Web is a brand, and you have this whole community spending the entire day with you, that's what technology allows you to do. So, yes, in terms of diversification of channels, there are many, but I feel in the future, a channel is what we make of it. It's so much personalized now that for somebody it could be a tweet, for somebody else it could be a WhatsApp, and I'm only using channels we are familiar with now. For somebody else it could be a visual, for somebody the morning toast, someone else I'm traveling in a metro and suddenly I see something, a lot of virtual experiences around us. Which is why I'm saying, it's futile for me to keep talking about this is what will happen in terms of a new channel when it comes to technology. What I can always harp back on, whatever is the channel, at the end of it, if you don't understand how the consumer is going to behave, what is it? Whether it's a dream or a fear or an aspiration or my relationship with the brand, if we get that right, the channel is really the messenger. And we can always get over it. So,
yeah, I guess we can't be so fixated on channels or
yes,
spend our entire life or
yes,
our work around channels as well.
yes,
Because considering what happened with TikTok and a lot of marketing
yes.
budget might have been put into TikTok.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. Look, sometimes I must say that while we earlier always said that the medium is the message, right? And then you come to the messenger, the channel. But today I must admit that even for us, we do look at the channel first. So, for example, on the brand I worked on just recently, 2 weeks ago, we did something on search. And it was a kind of a search hack. Now, the idea for us came from let's do a search hack. Then we went to the brand and said, okay, what do we do in terms of the hack? Okay, this is something we can do. So it was not idea out as much as search out, because that is the behavior. That is what we realized what people are doing in case of this particular brand when it came to launching something new. So I must say that today the channels play that role in terms of an innovative solution. But I always worry if we are dazzled too much by that and start with that first always. We'll never get into the consumer the way we should otherwise.
Thanks, Babita. That was very insightful. The next question is for Nisha. This is on events. So events had been like very core for marketing, a lot of marketing functions, even internal as well as external. So it could be like yeah, we had sales conventions, CRM building. Where I come from in pharma, it was quite important. Product trials have always used events. With COVID, the face of events have changed. So, are there more opportunities, or do you see it as a setback, or do you see it as a temporary lag? Or what has been your experience with it?
It's interesting because just before the session started, Ruchita was asking me, how is it with online events? Is fatigue setting in for people? So, but first of all, I must say that the shift to online events and webinars has been one of the good outcomes from the pandemic. And it's proof that good things come out of bad situations. And it's helped not just women but men as well, right? And it's helped different demographics. So Ruchita was talking about people from smaller towns who are now more online. So it's helped probably students, it's helped people who've gone back home from and are working from home to be part of more events. And online events are here to stay, at least for the next 1 year, maybe longer, while there are restrictions on travel. I think that after a year or so, we'll see more organizers actually moving to a hybrid or a phygital format, as they call it, allowing both physical and virtual participation, either in an entire event or certain aspects of it. And this will really be a win win for the attendees and the participants as well as the organizers, because it allows you to reach a larger base, and it also at the same time lets you earn more revenue potentially. Now, whether this will specifically create opportunities for women, Anju, which was your question, let me share an anecdote with you from my experience. So, I do focus groups, right? And over the last 4 or 5 months, I've seen the transition from physical focus groups where we had 8 or 10 consumers in the room and we were spending an hour or two with them to online groups.
Right.
And our assumption was that once we get over the technology barrier, women should find it more convenient and easy to participate in focus groups from home. But actually, what I and my colleagues observed is that women in the home setting sometimes have some constraints. So they are on call by in laws or kids who think that if you're at home, the time is there for them. And I think in work from home, we have also experienced this to an extent. Or they have situations where they have to get up to answer the bell. And honestly, their concentration also slips at some point of time. And we've also had women telling us, some of them who've attended focus groups in the past, that they miss actually coming out of home.
Right.
And when they come out of home and they meet people, they don't have demands on their time. So, in research, we've had to adapt the way that we deal with women when we meet them online versus when we have met them face to face. So, we've started using WhatsApp chat plus video. We've started breaking out research sessions across a couple of days or longer.
I guess
So that we can
Nisha is
interact with them.
temporarily, her connection has been
Can you
lost.
hear me now?
I think she's coming now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that to answer your question, women may get more opportunities, may benefit from online events, but just like Babita said, just the medium or the channel is not something that makes it easier for women. So just being online may not make you women friendly. So we may actually need to design for difference when we design online events for women. We need to think inclusively. And this is actually a great way to be inclusive. And I know that Women's Web is at the forefront of all such initiatives. So I'm sure you'll be at the cutting edge of more women friendly online events in the future. I'm sure even this you've designed taking into account, the people who are with you and the people who are following you. So really, what we'll have to do is listen to consumers and find out how it works, what works, bring in new creative ideas. I loved what Babita was saying about gamification. So maybe online events include some elements of playing games with people. Maybe there are strategy games through which you learn. Or what Ruchita was saying, that it's very video driven. Maybe there are people who will express themselves coming on video and doing something. But giving people new and creative ways to interact online will really be a key to making online women's events more participative when it comes to women.
So that gives me an idea. This is a question to the audience. So in case you had to get up, go open the door, or pick up the phone, or do any household activity in the last 1 hour, let us know what you did and what it was in the chat box here. The next question is for Babita. What is your opinion on the changing landscape of marketing with more topical digital marketing, with the virals and the moment marketing? I'd like you to touch upon the good, bad, and the ugly, because though there are good parts of it, there are also repercussions to it.
Moment marketing is we all it's also called topical marketing, right? Just so that everybody understands it, which means that there's something that has happened in the moment, and you use messaging and channels to rally around that moment that has happened, and you create a conversation or you sort of get more engagement. So that's what moment marketing is. The best example, so that we are all very clear, I think before technology ever became what it was today, has been Amul and their hoardings, because they've always done topical, maybe not moment in real time or near real time because it was outdoor, but it was the quickest outdoor I've ever seen all my life, and we would always wait for it. So one of the important things of moment marketing is relevance. So, for example, there are floods. Everyone's talking about it. And as a brand, I offer connectivity. Now, there is a connection to that, right? So, the resolution that as a brand I can offer you when you need help and support is through connectivity. And therefore, I have a reason to be part of that conversation and that moment marketing. Or, for example, even if it's a trend, sometimes moment marketing doesn't have to be just something that happened in the moment. For example, if healthy eating is a trend, and as a brand, I jump onto moment marketing with an offer that says healthy eating is also fun. So you've taken a take on if healthy eating is always boring, the family doesn't like it. You have an offer to say, or a product that says healthy eating is fun. So now that's again relevance. Sometimes what happens is there is a very collective moment that happens. For example, and all of us are living it now, the pandemic. And in that, we know that a lot of brands have had communication on health workers, on appreciating health workers. Almost every brand that I have known of or seen have done something or the other to say thank you or appreciate or even offer something from their product, whether it's a discount, whether it's now that again is if there's a collective problem or there's a collective appreciation, as a brand, we are part of that collective. Or say in India, Yuvraj's retirement. For those of who are cricket fans here, that garnered a lot of friends, brands. So it doesn't matter whether as a brand you are connected with sports or you're connected with Yuvraj is a national, Dhoni's, so, if somebody is a national hero, and we're all appreciating that national hero. Or last year when the three women won the sports medals, and everyone was talking about that. So there are different ways in which a brand associates itself with moment marketing. The bad or the ugly, and I'm just using ugly because Anju, you use the word. I don't think today anything is ugly. It's very subjective. But where it gets ugly is number one, in the zeal to be part of the conversation, we sometimes cross the limit when it comes to provocation, and which is where brands get into trouble, which is in the social discourse, have you taken a stand which actually makes people either furious or upset, or you've not really captured the sentiment, but you've gone and said something? Because moment marketing actually does not leave you enough time for backroom strategy. You have to be there at the moment, right? So it's very agile thinking. The organization is almost restructured the process to empower people who actually do that, because if you have to go through the normal process, it takes a lot of time. So with that comes a high degree of responsibility, because with technology today, anything that you put out there is seen by everyone. The other folly that brands often make is just because there is a conversation doesn't mean we have to be a part of it. Yeah. And if I leave the collective celebrations or the collective problems that I just spoke about now, whether it's about a sports star or whether it's about the pandemic now, when it comes to other moments, doesn't have to, just because there's something happening on LBQT, I'm just saying that, doesn't mean that you have to jump on it. You can have that as a value in your organization, and we all have that. We all believe, at least the ones who are working here, I can speak for myself and the organization, diversity and inclusion is a part of it. But I sometimes see messages from brands which mean nothing to nobody. Whenever there's a conversation around it, you actually go and put some colors and some visuals and say you're in it. But when you look deep into the brand or even into the organization, it's far from where it was. So consumers today catch you out. So if you're not really walking the talk and moment marketing for you is about buzz creation, it becomes very, very ugly and it becomes very unauthentic at times. But otherwise, if you do it well, I think moment marketing allows you to be in the center of things. It allows you to connect with empathy like never before. And as far as possible, if the fit of the brand is right, we must do it.
Thanks, Babita. So we are running out of time. So I'll have this last question to all the panelists, and then we'll take up one or two audience questions. So the question to the panelists is today with sales and marketing, not today, like since the past and even today, um, marketing and sales careers are often discouraged for women because there's a lot of travel, there is field work involved, and of course, if you start from sales, so it is a big no-no. But yet we see a lot of women who are interested in marketing careers or sales careers. How do you see the future for feet on the ground sales and marketing function evolving?
So I'm happy to go first, and then I look, automation is a word which is like a sword of Damocles hanging over everybody's head, and it is making inroads into sales in different ways. And when I say automation, it doesn't mean that necessarily they are just robots or AI doing the job, and you don't need people. What I mean is, how much do you really need to be out in the field every day versus the data that you get real time, the dashboard that you have, the sales numbers that you can keep, the control that you can have on inventory, the control you can have on consumers, what they want, customers, immediate delivery, etc. So I think sales jobs, not future, in fact, is starting almost currently, will need a lot of familiarity and embracing of this technology. If we say that technology is the digital department's domain and we are very happy with just walking the field and getting that highs, which will always be there, it won't be a sales job. The good part is, because it is going to be that, and because it will be so technology driven, earlier a lot of women, including me, when I just came out of college, I dreaded taking up a sales job because the thought of just going out into areas, shop to shop, walking in small lanes, etc. I've heard horror stories, and I somehow thought maybe it's not my cup of tea, it could be for others. I think a lot of those will change with technology. That's what I mean. With virtual reality, you can actually see the shop, talk to the shopkeeper like we're doing now. So you really don't have to do the beats like you did. So I think the arena for women will open up more. The confidence that women will have to do a sales job will go out more, go up more.
Would you like to add something, Ruchita?
Yeah, so maybe I can answer this from two contexts. So I have been a salesperson all my career, for the last 18 to 19 years, but it's been more B2B sales, enterprise sales. So I've always felt that you're right, this apprehension that women do have, or their families have, about women being in sales has always been there. And a lot of women that I've mentored have also kind of come up with that. But to be honest, I can tell you, as a salesperson, and I hope that all the women who are out there who want to know this, I can tell you that the journey, being a woman salesperson and grow all the way up to leader, I think we have certain inherent advantages. And kind of picking up a little bit from the values that Babita had spoken about, I think as marketeers, or as business people, we are more empathetic, we are more relationship oriented, we do kind of take a more long term view before, we're not very impulsive in that sense, right? And we want to have this very high thing of doing the right thing. I think if I had to kind of list out all of these four things, I think these are four value systems that really make a woman very, very successful salesperson. And I believe that the understanding of business that comes by actually doing sales for a few years, especially at the beginning of your career, is an amazing learning. It really grounds you very, very well. You really are very close to how an actual sales happens in the market. So I think any person, any individual, man or woman alike, if you are looking to build yourself as a marketing person, I think spending a few years in sales is an unmatched learning. I think that is something that one must definitely look forward to doing it, and embrace it and not shy away from it. Yes, there are certain things that, as a woman, you will have to be careful of, right? I'm not going to say that, you do not have to be careful of, but, I think because most organizations are focusing on diversity and inclusion, I think the time for a woman to be open and kind of share what your comfort factors are, what is it that you're comfortable doing, and also very honestly share what you're not comfortable doing. I think the room and space is available now today in a lot of organizations. I know it's not necessarily in 100% of the organizations, but I think that is really changing. And somewhere by having more women in such roles is only going to kind of pivot the needle, or kind of move the needle towards an inflection point where this will change completely. And I'm seeing that trend happen. If I look around in my organization, if I look at my teams, or if I look at other organizations or my clients, I think there are more and more women there. So I think it is a good trend. In terms of going forward, sales and marketing together. I think exactly for the reasons that all of us, Nisha, Babita, and I, and Anju, you yourself also kind of said those in your questions. I think because of the sheer nature of what the consumer will expect, and the fact that consumer today, a big chunk of our consumer is actually a woman, on the other hand, who is either taking the purchase decision or is definitely playing a very large influencing role. I think because of that, I think it makes a very, very strong case for women to be in sales and marketing. Because if, on the contrary, if you have a larger set of consumers being women, but the marketeers are not as many women, right? I think that context will go missing. So while the messaging on topical, about the environment is important, but I guess, it's very, very important for the messaging to be contextual and for it to be designed keeping the consumer in mind. So where your consumer is, who your consumer is, has to get reflected in, who is solving for that, and therefore the sales and marketing role. So that's what I believe.
It has been amazing having all of you, and the answers have been really insightful. I had a lot of fun. We'll close the session now with this. Thank you, Nisha. Thank you, Babita. Thank you, Rachita.
Thank you.
It's alright. Yeah, it's alright.